Good morning, everyone. So it is Wednesday, the final stretch. No matter how tired you may be, or out dancing and drinking all last night at the Ogilvy Awards, this part is going to be a fun phase, a little interactive, get your blood going a little bit, all right? So my name is Boon, and I run the growth team at the ARF. Notice for all you newcomers, I said the ARF and not the ARF. Every time I hear someone say the ARF, a little piece inside of me dies. Even though I do think it would be funny if we were called the ARF, we called the A and A the ANA, or the 4 A's, the But we are the ARF. And thank you guys all again for coming. What we're going to do right now is try to get some feedback from you guys before we go into our next show, which starts in a few weeks. So to start this, I would like to start with a little informal survey of you all, okay? Now, I know you're probably saying this is the worst room to produce a survey because, one, we never answer surveys, even though we produce them. And two, half of you are going to tell me what I did wrong once I'm done with it, but we're still going to try it anyway. So for a moment, because I have the lights, I'm going to ask everybody in the room, sitting and standing, security, staff, text, everybody, please put one hand in the air so I can see what I'm working with. Put one hand in the air. All right. All right, good. Here we go. All right, so Don Gleckler, Jasper Snyder, Peter Orban, where are you guys? All right, great. And for the rest of you, everyone, please put one hand in the air if you've been with us for the entire conference this week. Wow. All right, it's probably about 65, 70% of the room. It's more than I expected. You guys are troopers, huh? All right. So the reason why we're going to ask you guys to help us is we have about 35 to 40 ARF staff here throughout the week. But with all of you, we have thousands of eyes and ears, and we need to capture everything that happened that maybe we couldn't see. I'm sure many of you are thinking, I was running to this room and that room, and maybe I missed something else upstairs or downstairs. So that's what we're trying to get right here. So I'm going to ask you to all think about what is the one most interesting thing you learned or heard about in any of the sessions this week. I'm going to give you a few seconds to think about it. We'll get there. Maybe it was how this company approached ABC, and it's different from how you think about it. Or maybe it's a common theme that you heard throughout the week, and you heard it in a different manner, but you still it popped up here and there. Or maybe it's a request. Maybe it's something you wish you heard more of. You wanted to hear more about X, Y, and Z. You heard about some X on Monday, but you wanted more of Y and Z. And the reason why we're asking that is in a few weeks, we're going into our next big conference in this same venue, which is called Audience Measurement. It's my favorite show of the year. If you want more information, you can go to our website. It's thearf.org. So right now, I'm going to ask you guys all to close your eyes for about 10 to 20 seconds. Everybody, please close your eyes and think of one key takeaway. Your favorite speech, your favorite idea. 10 seconds starting now. Okay, and eyes open. All right, so going to all these panels throughout the week, there is a wealth of brilliance at this convention. It also makes me realize that I am definitively the dumbest person at this show. So we enlisted some of the smartest people at the ARF to help us with this. If you see around the room, Jasper, Peter, and Don, if you guys would raise your hands, we have microphones seated all around the room. We're going to ask you guys to come up with maybe one thing to share with the rest of us. And we have note takers from our Knowledge Center who are capturing this. We're going to synthesize it into our Knowledge Center tomorrow. All right, so let's see what we have out here. All right. Jasper, you have your arm in the air. What do we have from the back?
Good morning, everybody. So let me pass the mic over. You'd like to introduce yourself and tell us what the highlight was for you this week or this morning.
Good morning, Mike Hess with Nielsen. There was so much good stuff, it's hard to say one. I was impressed by Susan Cain's idea that the corporate world probably wasn't getting everything we should be getting from the introverts. And she gave us some good ideas on how to access all of their great ideas and make sure that they're really part of corporate culture.
Which is a perfect timing for this as we're asking you guys to speak out. So the introverts. What else? Peter.
Yes.
You had your hand in the air as well, yes?
There to go. I have someone who will answer for you.
Hey Boon, Jeff Buchan from Google.
Nice to meet you.
I thought that Mike Donahue's interview with NASCAR was really interesting, just hearing about how that brand recovered from the recession and is really working hard to change perceptions throughout the country.
Thank you, Jack. Yesterday, the NASCAR Mike Donahue 4A's presentation. Don, over on the left.
Yeah, I've got David Krychek from GFK, I think is going to give us
All right,
thought
David.
back here. Let me run back to him. Phil Donahue-like.
Thanks, Don. You know, I think to your point about the theme, one of the themes that I was hearing, or at least one of the things that was coming out to me, was the notion of really striving to nurture and understand the relationship that brands have with their consumers. And that's really come out in a couple of different ways. And I see a lot of people really striving to measure and manage that relationship. And you think about it in the currency of relationships, it frames out things like some of the implicit measures, some of the emotional measurements that were being talked about, some of the neuroscience. So we're starting to see, I think, a convergence in the type of measurement solutions out there, and the currency is really around the relationship.
David, that's a great point. Actually, Steven Rappaport, who wrote the Digital Metrics Field Guide that we just published, was talking about this yesterday in the ARF Lounge. And I think he calls it Humetrics. It's a term he's trying to coin right now. And how much, there's always people behind a business, what makes it run well, not the business itself. So a very relevant point coming up time and time again. Jasper, did you have your hand up? Yes.
Sure, I'm sure I can find someone. Craig, perhaps an idea?
Hi, Craig Jaffe, Research 360. There was a comment after the presentation, The Art of Research, that I thought was very insightful. It was that the research findings were presented without numbers, and I find that to be a very compelling concept. Kind of makes me think of new and innovative ways to present data and insights, and I'd like to challenge everyone here today to perhaps think of new and compelling ways to showcase your research as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I love that you asked the room, you challenged the room. That's another thing we like to do. If maybe someone Sorry?
We got one here.
We got another one? Okay, let's do it, Peter.
Hey, Boon. This is Dan Goldstein from Hill Holiday.
Hey, Dan.
I really enjoyed Keith Reinhardt talking about, as an agency representative, that advertising is both art and science. As an agency representative here, it's a great challenge for me to go back to my creative thinkers at my organization to think not just with the left brain, but also with the right brain, to understand how creative isn't just emotionally driven, it's also research driven, but have our research team also think from the opposite perspective, that everything isn't about numbers and science, but also about the art and the passion behind advertising.
I'm so glad you brought that up. I'm actually an art major in my undergrad. So art is my heart, business is my day-to-day, but. All right, Don right here on the left. My left, I'm sorry.
Hi, Jane Clark from Simp.
Hi, Jane.
I was impressed by hearing more and more about companies, particularly vendors, collaborating together, because in this era, you know, there are many different skills that many different vendors have, and they often can't do everything. So hearing more about sample-based companies collaborating, you know, in hybrid approaches with big data companies, passive measurement, collaborating with companies who have more active survey-based measurements. So I was just impressed to hear more examples of collaborative thinking and companies going out of the box a little bit, working together in new ways.
We got
Thank
one more
you,
here.
Terry. All right, Peter in the center.
All right, my name is Raul. One of the things I'm going to take away, and I really, really liked of all these conferences, it's all the ways that big data is being harnessed by many companies, by research agencies, and how we are taking this new road to really know our consumer, to really know the people who we talk about, and not only base ourselves in our traditional approach of surveys, qualitative groups. We are actually in a pretty exciting era where we can exploit different sources and integrate all of these to give a better deliverable, better insight, and lead our clients to take better actions.
Thank you. That's something that's been popping up here and our ILF show back in October. Johannes Hartmann from Estee Lauder brought up that same point, focusing more and more and more on the consumer, not necessarily the things that go into it, but the person themselves. And where are we right now? Oh, Don, sorry, on the left, my left.
Hi, I'm
Hi.
Susan Griffin from Brain Juicer. I was struck yesterday after Lee Garfinkel's keynote, the debate that went on with one of the audience members who had a question about how to identify great advertising, the potential for great advertising. And sort of the punctuation at the end was her comment, well, maybe it takes great research to identify the potential for great advertising. And I think that was kind of a call to action for all of us, that we have to aspire to be the great researchers who are going to help our clients identify great advertising.
Great point, Susan. I would also ask with that statement of maybe someone from the client side. What are you looking for most from the supplier side? Challenge the suppliers in the room. Let's hear from you and see what you're really looking for. Maybe you heard something this week and you'd like it developed further. Or maybe even for us at the ARF, we can put on a forum around a certain topic. If you have any of those ideas, please share them now. We have about 2 or 3 minutes left of this, then I'll bring you into the next session. All right, Jasper in the back.
I think we have one more over here. Thanks.
Okay.
Hi there, I'm Ewan Mackay from Kantar Media. I think probably one of the things I've taken from the conference is how polite everyone is in America. Everyone very, very patient with us. But I think this morning, Susan Kane's presentation was excellent. Again, kind of going back to the point that was made about kind of harnessing the introverts. I'm shaking just now, kind of being introverted speaking here. But then also Niels's presentation on the kind of the visuals, using visuals throughout everything. I think that's something that all of us as researchers need to take on board and need to be pushing more at.
Thank you. Yes, Don, in the center.
I'm Brand from GFK. I really enjoyed Paul Greco's presentation. Sometimes we have to stretch ourselves thinking outside of where we come from and challenging ourselves to think about the words we use and the way we describe things that kind of steps outside of how we normally do it. So I thought he was very inspiring.
That's another great point. We have a show in the fall where about 30% of the programming is outside of our industry. People from NASA, Capitol Hill, whatever, UN, so we can hear about their methodology. So thinking outside of our bubble is great. Yes, Don, again in the middle.
Claudio Marcus from Visible World, and it's great to see all the progress and into deeper insights on consumers. And I love the new insights that are being derived from the neuro side, and particularly the importance of emotions. But at the same time, I feel like we're still treating sort of the emotions at a high level, at sort of a mass marketing approach. Whereas I think that these things need to intersect, where we really start to understand the differences between segments and their different emotional appeals. So for example, introverts are very different from extroverts, we learned today, right? So I think there's so much runway ahead of us in terms of really refining and bringing these two practices together.
That's another thing that's been popping up in all of our shows for the last 16 months is clans or posses, not necessarily the demographics that we're used to looking at, the segments we're used to looking at, but other ways that people are connecting through culture or whatever it may be, personality. Good point.
Okay, we got one here.
Peter over here.
Hi, I'm Celia Van Wickle from Lowe's Home Improvement. For me, it's really learning for new ways to connect to consumers. So today's Insights Consulting presentation was very impactful to look for Pinterest and how you get new insights from Pinterest, Lego's way of connecting to consumers through getting them to ideate for them, bringing their ideas forward, paying them for their ideas. I think it was really interesting. I think my organization can really learn a lot about making the consumers generate your ideas or listening to what consumers are doing to inform new thinking.
Thank you, Celia. It's good to put a face with a name, too. So many of you guys on the phone and emails I work with, but it's good to actually see a face.